All right, so this right here is without doubt the easiest to use slider out there. It takes less than a minute to set it from position A to position B and have it do a smooth camera movement. This is the iFootage Shark Nano II, and this slider is made in collaboration with DJI, so yes, you are seeing that correctly. That is a DJI gimbal on there, but it even works with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, making this piece of gear even more interesting. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a closer look. So if you've ever used a motorized slider before, you might know that typically this setup can be quite tedious. However, this couldn't be further from the truth with the Nano 2, and to prove my point, let's go over how quick it is to set this thing up and to start shooting. So the first thing you need is this little gimbal mounting plate here, and that just slides onto the slider and locks into place. Next, we need to detach the gimbal from the battery grip. So just unlock it and then move it over here, and then lock that into place. And now we need this little cable which attaches to the gimbal right here. Just screw that in, and then it magnetically attaches right here. And now we're ready to power on the slider by just pressing and holding the power button. It's going to do a little calibration dance right here. And the slider also provides power to the gimbal, so I can also turn on the gimbal right now. There we go. Next, we need to make sure that the gimbal is set to push mode. So I'll just slide down here on the gimbal screen, go to settings, go to push mode, and make sure that push pan and push tilt is turned on. And the reason why you need to have that turned on is because this is going to allow me to physically turn and point the camera to whichever direction I want to be able to set my keyframes. All right, now we can unlock the slider by pressing the power and function button. That'll take us to video mode. And now let's put the camera to our first position. So maybe somewhere over here. Let's turn it up, something like that. Then I'm gonna hit A on the screen here. Move it back over here for our second position. Maybe turn it all the way there, down, and then hit B, and that's going to be our B position. And then in the middle here, we can set the time between these 2 points. So let's set that to 5 seconds, for example. You can set it all the way to 1 second if you want it to go really fast. Then we hit standby, and it's going to go to its first position to point A. And now if I press start, it's going to start doing that movement. And we can also set it to loop, or if you just want it to do it once, if you have it set to loop, it's just going to continuously repeat this movement. The cool thing is also, if you have your camera connected via Bluetooth to the gimbal, starting the movement on the slider is actually going to start the recording on the camera as well. So you can see how fast and easy it is to set this thing up, especially if I wasn't explaining all the steps while setting it up. You can imagine how quickly it is to get this thing going. And I think the user friendliness of this slider is its biggest selling point. It's super straightforward and fast to set up all kinds of different shots, which is something I found to be a real pain with other sliders, and often the reason why I wouldn't use them. Now, looking at the specs of the Shark Nano II, it has a max payload of 7 kilograms when you're using it in a horizontal setup. But you can also use this slider vertically, and then it holds up to 3.5 kilograms, which is still going to support most setups. And mounting it vertically allows you to get small crane-like movements or other creative camera moves super easily. You just kind of need to figure out how to actually mount it so that it's in a stable vertical position. Once that's sorted, operating it in vertical mode is just as smooth and reliable as horizontal, letting you pull off really interesting looking shots with total confidence. So I've been using the Shark Nano II in combination with my DJI RS4 Pro, as you can see right here, but it's also compatible with the RS2, RS2 Pro, RS3 Pro, and RS4. Gimbals like the RS4 Mini won't work because the gimbal battery needs to detach, and something like the RS4 Mini has an integrated battery, so that just doesn't fit on here. iFootage have 2 sizes available of this slider. There's this one right here, which is the larger one, and this one has 43 centimeters of travel distance distance. There's also a shorter one which has 23 centimeters of travel distance. And the build quality of this thing is really good. Like basically everything else from iFootage I own, I think they always have really well built equipment, and the Nano 2 slider here is no different. It's all metal with carbon fiber rails, and it's got some really good weight to it as well, so you can just tell that this thing is going to last. Plus, I like that you get this handy carrying bag with it as well, making it easy if you want to take it along with you on shoots. When it comes to power, you've got a few options. Firstly, you can use it with an MPF style battery, which is great if you want to keep things compact, but you can also use it with a power bank with a 60-watt USB-C power delivery. I've used it a lot with this 140-watt iFootage battery, which is a great companion for this slider. And you can of course also plug the Nano 2 straight into a wall outlet. Besides just setting it on a flat surface or mounting it vertically like we just saw, the slider can also be mounted onto tripods or light stands. And depending on how stable your light stands are, this is a pretty good setup. There are a number of 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch mounting points on the slider, so you've got all the options to mount this slider however you like. Now you could essentially also mount this on a single heavy-duty tripod in the middle, and as you can see here, it actually works surprisingly well, which is way easier than having to use 2 light stands. But I found it to be more stable without the fluid head on the tripod and actually just connecting it straight on the tripod legs. Now this will obviously depend on the quality of your tripod, and if your tripod is not able to hold the weight and you'll see it sag a little bit when it goes to the far ends, you can use something like these magic arms or crab arms for some extra support. All right, now obviously you're gonna get the most out of this slider when pairing it with a DJI gimbal. That way you get full pan, tilt, and roll movements in combination with the slider movement. But you can also attach a standard tripod head or a fluid head and mount your camera on there. Or you can even attach this plate directly to your camera and then mount it straight onto the slider. So if you only need to do some simple slider shots or orbit shots, you could just get away with a minimal setup like this. A small note here, if you are just going to be doing these simpler shots, so simple slides or orbits, you're actually going to be better off using it without the gimbal, because you can see right here that when doing an orbit shot, for example, it uses the gimbal to rotate the camera. Whereas without the gimbal, it's going to use the slider's motor to do the rotation, and that'll just get you slightly better results. So in addition to all that, you can also use this slider with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. You can purchase this additional adapter right here that again just slides onto the slider, locks into place, and then it also comes with this cold shoe adapter right here. But there are several mounting points on this adapter plate right here. So you've got a lot of different options of how you can mount the Osmo Pocket 3 onto the slider. This basically just slides onto the Osmo Pocket 3, locks into place, and then the cold shoe just slides onto here. And then we need a USB-C cable that goes from the USB-C port on the Osmo to a USB-C port on the adapter right here. And now if we power on the slider is going to communicate to the Osmo Pocket 3 directly. It's going to do a little calibration dance, once again, like we've seen before on the gimbal. Now we can power on the Osmo, and it's going to ask us if we want to go USB mode or webcam mode. And for this to work, we need to be in webcam mode. And there we go. Now we can start setting our first point. Unlock again by pressing power and function right here, like so. Let's set that for our position A. We can move the camera up, turn the gimbal a little bit, like so. Position A. Then move it all the way here. Turn it around, and that's going to be our position B. Again, let's do 5 seconds. Hit standby. It's going to go from A to B. I'll just move this out of the way. All right, so if I hit start on the slider here, it's also going to start recording on the Osmo Pocket 3. So because these two are connected, they are communicating. So it's going to start recording. It's going to start that motion just with one push of a button. And also you can see that the slider is actually controlling the gimbal on the Pocket 3 as well. And being able to use a small and versatile camera like the Osmo Pocket 3 on a slider can open up a lot of opportunities for creative shots, especially if you mount it onto the slider using something like one of these iFootage crab arms. You can get this tiny camera in a lot of spots where you wouldn't be able to get any larger camera. So as you've seen throughout this video, I've been controlling the slider and setting up the shots and everything directly on the slider. And that's one of the things that I also really love about this slider, is that you don't need an app. So the touchscreen on the slider is very intuitive, it works great, and I think it's the fastest way to operate the Shark Nano II. However, there is an app available if that's more your thing, or if you want to control the slider remotely. So then you basically get a larger interface than on the slider screen, but you can do all of your keyframe settings there, change the timing, and you can also control the slider and set up your shots using the joysticks. What I like about the app is that you can even set the sensitivity of the dials. So if you want more finite control, you can, for example, lower the sensitivity. The Shark Nano II also offers a few different modes. Now you'll most likely be using the video mode a lot, which is what you'd use for this typical point-to-point camera movement. But there's also a dedicated time-lapse mode, a stop motion mode, macro mode, and panoramic mode. Another thing that I thought was pretty cool is that you can set a hold time from 0 to 60 seconds between different shots. So if you want the camera to move, then hold its position for a while and then move to another position, you can set that up. And you can see in this shot right here, the camera pulls back, then holds for a few seconds before starting a slow push in again. When it comes to the price, this larger model of the Shark Nano II is priced at $749 US. The smaller version is $649 US. And that obviously does not include the gimbal. So if you own a DJI gimbal, I think this is a very interesting investment. And from my experience, it's definitely the best slider I've ever used. Anyway, if you want to check out the Shark Nano II for yourself, I will leave a link in the video description for the best deal I could find. All right, that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.